Hello guys and welcome to yet another video. This is your favorite dark man and today I am going to be talking about the Suicide Squad. So the Suicide Squad is directed by James Gunn, who happens to be the director of the two Guardians of the Galaxy movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as him being co-producer, I think, with Infinity War and Endgame. And how this movie came about was it was mad in controversy. So some tweets were found on James Gunn's Twitter timeline from far back as 2012, I think. And because of that, Marvel Studios decided to fire him. Luckily for DC, that meant that they could hire him to work on some of their projects, and Suicide Squad happens to be one of a few down the road. I think I caught an article that said that this is just the first movie that James Gunn is making for DC, and also he's returning to do a third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which is just great. It's a good judgment call on the part of Marvel. They shouldn't have fired him in the first place, but all things working together for good for him, and yeah, he's made this masterpiece of a movie. When this movie first came out, it was averaging a 10 out of 10 score, and it's not very hard to see why. After watching it now, I'm going to be looking at this movie and breaking it down in certain areas, but I'm also going to be reviewing it as well. So let's talk about it. So this movie serves as a sequel to the 2016 Suicide Squad movie made by David Ayer, and it's more of a soft reboot because that movie, there was a lot that was okay, but a lot of people termed the ending as being anticlimactic, and people really hated the Joker and the portrayal by Jared Leto. Jared Leto apparently didn't even like it himself. So by this, the existence of that first movie and the events of that first movie are acknowledged, but it's more of a soft reboot because this is the version that I think we are supposed to remember, and I couldn't agree more. Like, this take of the Suicide Squad is very good. Although, going back to Justice League for a minute, I have some reservations and questions because now we have two Justice League movies, and I don't know if the Snyder Cut is even considered in the main continuity of the DC universe, since I've heard that they don't even want to continue whatever plans Zack Snyder had. Now, it's funny because Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder actually helped in executive producing the Suicide Squad movie, but the events of the Justice League movies are a little weird because they are somewhat similar in certain respects. A lot of things are done differently, especially with the ending, but I am asking myself questions as in, okay, which movie takes precedence? Are they going to do a multiversal thing that Marvel is sort of starting to venture into slowly, or they're just going to, you know, ignore it and keep us confused? I guess we'll see. I think I only need 5 people, or actually 4 people, directing DC movies. I need Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman, I need James Wan for Aquaman, I need Zack Snyder for anything doing with Justice League characters, and I need James Gunn. And possibly you can also throw in Dan Sandberg, who directed Shazam, which was a very enjoyable movie. Straight out of the gate, this movie leaves you a little confused because you don't see the original characters that we've seen in the trailers up until a certain point when something happens on an island, and it leaves you a little discombobulated at first, but eventually you kind of get used to seeing what you saw, and then everything is tied in perfectly. So I like that they did that little thing in the beginning. There was also this element James Gunn kept using, where he kept using elements within the story to break down the timeline. So there were things with the Warner Brothers sign coming out of blood, there were things with fire, there were things with rustling leaves, and even something on a toilet seat with Idris Elba. It was very interesting, and I really liked what they did with that production element right there. The parallels in characters was something I was looking out for, and James Gunn did not disappoint. The most obvious parallel you have is with Killer Croc and King Shark, but that's really in terms of them being the brawn of the team as well as being in an animalistic form. Also, this is another parallel which you might spot in the course of watching this movie, is the parallel between Will Smith's character from the 2016 movie of Deadshot with the 2021 Idris Elba character of Bloodsport. Now, it's not just the fact that they are the leading protagonists and probably the de facto leaders of the Suicide Squad as we've known them, but also is the interpersonal relationship they have with their daughters. So whereas Will Smith's character had a very tight bond with his daughter and practically did everything for him, Idris Elba's character pretty much has an adversarial relationship with his daughter that's probably non-existent even to start with. You have Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, and Rick Flag returning, and honestly, Rick Flag shocked me just a little bit because he was somewhat toned down in this movie and a little more relatable, whereas in the first movie he had this stiff demeanor that made it, you know, you almost hated him when you're watching that movie. John Cena as the Peacemaker is quite possibly one of the best castings that James Gunn could have made. Now, it's kind of funny how John Cena got the role because initially Dave Bautista was considered to take the role of Peacemaker, but as it would turn out, he also had an offer offer from Zack Snyder to do Army of the Dead, and so seeing that he was going to score a bigger payday and a more prominent role than he would have had in the Suicide Squad, Dave Bautista said, hey man, I love you James, but I need to do this. And so that's how he ended up in Army of the Dead. I may have referenced it, I think I did reference it in my review for that movie. You can check it out in the corner. And yeah, so that's how we ended up with John Cena's Peacemaker. I absolutely love it. And the chemistry between himself and Idris Elba is something I was never expecting, but I absolutely enjoyed from start to finish. They have this brother type bond, but it's like one-upping each other even until the very end. And I loved it. I loved it. I really would like to see more of it going forward. Now, seeing as James Gunn made this movie at the time when he was fired from Marvel, he did have some help. So in this movie, you actually do see Clementi, who plays Mantis in the MCU. You see Michael Rooker, whose character shows up the first, and also his brother Sean Gunn, who used to do the motion capture for Rocket Raccoon in the MCU. He actually does the rocket capture. I'm making a lot of mistakes these days, guys. Let me take that again. Sean Gunn also does the motion capture, okay, for Weasel. We get the villain of Starro, who quite honestly you took seriously at certain points, but you like the character when you understood how they got to that point in time. And I was so impressed. Now we have actually seen a mechanized version of Starro, I think in the Snyder cut. We saw, I think, the same species, but this was a bit more of a mechanized version that we saw in the Snyder cut. This was more of an organic version that they used in this Suicide Squad movie. James Gunn also made use of very obscure comic book characters that I was really impressed with. I didn't know about this polka dot dude. I didn't know about Ratcatcher 2, not even 1. 2. But Ratcatcher 2 actually ends up being the heart and soul of this particular Suicide Squad, and I was really impressed. I like how this movie also challenges your morality, especially towards the very end. It's like plot twist after plot twist after plot twist, and somehow James Gunn never gets lost in it, and it's one of the things I really did enjoy watching in the course of this movie. There are 2 post-credit scenes in this movie, one of which shows up almost immediately after the initial title credits roll, and then at the very end. And the second post-credit scene sets up the Peacemaker series that will be coming to HBO Max in early 2022. I think WB is taking a cue from Disney Plus and Marvel Studios and what they have been doing all year, and I'm down for it. Although honestly, I think they had blown the opportunity by not linking Arrow and the Flash, but well, with what Flash is doing these days, I'm split about it, honestly. Now, before I go, I need to say this. John Cena playing Peacemaker. Mind you, The Rock is also playing Black Adam. Now, there are 2 franchises in which probably at one point in time we might see them on screen at the exact same time, and this is just the wrestling fan in me talking, but we might see, and I'm hoping, I'm not saying I might, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to see Peacemaker and Black Adam on screen together, at least before the Torettos get them, and it will be all about family. Alright, so that's going to be it. Thanks so much for watching. If you did like this video and you want to see more, please do subscribe to the channel, like my videos, and leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I will be hitting you guys tomorrow with Meme of the Week episode 3. I will catch you. I've been your favorite dark man. Peace.